Today, we're going to do a tier list with some of the most popular automations that I have built in the last year. And trust me, these 20 automations that I'm going to include in the tier list are some of the most popular automations that I have built for clients, for my business, and also for the NoCodeClick marketplace. That, in case you don't know, it's a marketplace where you can buy and sell automation templates. So now I'm going to explain how it works. As I mentioned, I have selected a 20 of total automations. And as you can see, I have given a total of 6 different tiers, from top tier to not usable, because indeed, some of the automations that are in this list are not usable at all. And this automation that we have here is going to help us to obtain the email of the followers of certain Instagram accounts. And as you can see, this automation is a combination between Airtable and a Make.com automation. And I'm going to explain how it works. So basically, we're going to input a username here in this Airtable database. And once we input that username, we're going to click in Launch Scraping. And once we click in Launch Scraping, we're going to launch this Make.com scenario. And what we are going to do here is via webhooks, we're going to get all the information of that user. And what we are going to do here is to first get all the information of that user with this get a record module from Airtable. And then after getting the information from the APIs, we're going to do the API calls to obtain first the followers and then to obtain the info of the followers. If that follower actually has an email, we're going to create a new record in another different table in Airtable. And now, once we have finished with all the followers of that specific user, we are going to update the record in Airtable and we're going to say that the script is finished. And actually, this automation is going to be a solid automation because it's true that it's a very good use case because it's going to help us to obtain the email of potential customers. But at the same time, as we're using Make.com and RapidAPI, we're going to consume a lot of operations and we're going to consume a lot of endpoint calls. So the cost of obtaining those emails can increase very, very rapidly. So that's why I think that it's a solid automation and I don't give it a rock solid or top tier. But now let's go with the next automation. And what this automation is going to do is to automate a home transportation company. And it's going to be in the following way. Basically, we're going to capture all the details of a specific customer that wants a ride in this form. And in this form, we're going to ask for information like the origin point, the destination point, and some other relevant details like the car that they want, etc. So what is going to happen is that after they finish the form, we're going to trigger this Make.com scenario. And depending if they select one service or another, we're going to go through these two routes or the other. In the upper two routes, what we're going to do is to calculate the distance in miles. We're going to create an invoice with Stripe, and then we're going to redirect to that person to that invoice page. And then what the other route is going to do is going to be very, very similar, but in this case, we're not going to need to calculate the distance. We're going to calculate the total invoice depending on some other parameters, like the car that they have selected and the amount of hours that the ride is going to be. So in the same way that we did before, we're going to create a customer, create an invoice, and then we're going to send that invoice to the customer. Then this webhook response is going to basically work. So when the person submits the form, then we're going to be able to redirect to that person to the checkout page. And this way, we're going to automate the whole quotation system of a transportation company. And this automation is going to be top tier. And the reason of why this automation is top tier is because by automating the whole quotation system of that company, they are going to increase the conversion by a lot because there is not going to be needed one person to do all the calculations and then to send an invoice to the customer. So by making that process faster, they are going to increase their revenue. So now we're going to go with the next automation. And actually, this is one of my favorite automations because this automation is going to convert text into a PDF that is going to be ready to be uploaded to LinkedIn. So I'm going to explain how it works. So as you can see, we have 3 different automations over here, but actually the whole system is going to start over here in this form that we have here. So basically in this form that we're going to have in Airtable, basically we're going to be able to input the text, also to select the length of the PDF. We can select if it is going to be a single image, if it is going to be a single image with an arrow, if it is going to be a short carousel, or if it is going to be a long carousel. So OpenAI has more background and can write a better PDF that is going to help us to be more relevant to that specific audience that we are speaking to. And how the automation is going to be the following. So once we submit the text and the type of PDF that we want to create, we're going to have this automation working, okay? This automation is going to be triggered via webhooks. And first, we're going to summarize the text in 10 points. And then depending if we do a short PDF or a long PDF, we're going to create 5 or 10 different slides. And here with these OpenAI models, and what we're going to do here in these subroutes is to basically create all the headers and subheaders that we're going to have in all the different slides in the PDF. And we're going to create it with these OpenAI models that then is going to be parsed into JSON. And then we're going to bring all that information to Airtable. And once we bring all that information to Airtable, what we're going to do is to trigger this other make scenario. And this make scenario, in this case, we only see 2 routes, but what it's going to do is, depending on the type of PDF that we have selected, it means short, long, or only one slide. And first with this model, we're going to create the PDF, then we're going to download the file, we're going to upload it to Drive, we're going to get a shared link, and then at the end, we're going to update the record in Airtable and we're going to obtain the PDF back. And this automation is going to be a rock solid automation, and it's not going to be better because there is one limitation with the LinkedIn PDFs, and that is that it's not possible to upload PDFs via LinkedIn API. So we need to use third-party services like Buffer. And even if we are using third-party services like Buffer, we cannot upload PDFs via API, which is very annoying because it cannot be fully automated. So now we're going to go to the next automation and let's see what we have here. And what this automation is going to do is, with the channel URL that we provide in Airtable, as you can see here, and when we select the status scrape, we're going to trigger this make automation. And what we're going to do with this make automation is to first obtain the channel ID and then obtain all the YouTube videos. Where first we're going to obtain the transcription and all the relevant metrics like likes, views, etc. And then we're also going to be able to download the video and we're going to be able to store it in our Airtable database. And I'm going to put this automation in good because even if it is a useful automation, there is software that already do very, very similar functions. So indeed, it's not 100% needed and it doesn't solve a problem because that problem is already solved by other softwares. But now let's go to the next automation. And this automation is very simple, but actually is super, super good because what we're going to do here is to watch all the articles that we create in Shopify. And then with this model, we're going to create or obtain an image with Unsplash API or maybe with Midjourney. And then we're going to create all the different text that we're going to use in order to upload a pin to Pinterest. And actually this sets completely to be in the top tier because it's a very simple automation, but at the same time as we're going to be literally uploading content automatically to Pinterest, we're going to be gaining free impressions and free traffic. And those are the automations that we actually want to build, automations that we set up once, and then they run completely on autopilot and we only have benefits from them. So for me, this is a top tier automation. But now let's go with the next automation and let's see what we have here. And it's going to summarize those recordings into a document, okay? So the automation works in the following way. When there is a new recording, then we're going to get that meeting. Then we're going to search the record in Airtable because all the links of our meetings are stored in Airtable. Then depending on the type of meeting, we're going to update the record with just the play link of the meeting. Or if it is a meeting that is interesting for us, for example, a sales call or a discovery call or something like that, then we're going to download the transcription, then we're going to download the recording, and then with OpenAI, first we're going to create a transcription, and then we're going to summarize that meeting and create a Google Docs document that we're going to upload back into Airtable, as you can see here. And this automation is going to be fair, because in the moment that I created this automation, this was super, super useful because Zoom didn't have the AI companion. But now, as they have released the AI companion, it may not be so useful as it used to be. But anyway, it actually solves a problem because we can upload directly all the summary of the meeting back into Airtable. So let's continue with the automations and see what we have next. Now we have one of my favorites and one of the latest automations that we have built. And this automation is going to summarize viral video scripts and is going to completely rewrite them. And I'm going to explain how it works. So basically, we're going to have this form in Airtable. And here we're going to write the title of the script that we want to summarize and then also write the video URL. Then we can select if we want to summarize that video now or if we want to do it later. And then something that I really like about this automation is that if we input information about the company name, a resource with a lead magnet that we want to mention, we're going to be able to create automatically that relevant call to action for our ICP. And once we submit the form and click on this confirm button, we're going to trigger this make.comment scenario. And this make.comment scenario may look scary, but indeed it's very simple. So first, we're going to receive all the information via webhooks. And then what we're going to do here in these different routes that we have here is to decide if the original transcription should be divided in 1, 2, 3, 4, or up to 9 sections. And then depending on the different sections that we have, we're going to recreate that part of the script with these OpenAI modules. At the end, we're going to aggregate all the text and then we're going to create a Google Docs document that we're going to upload back to Airtable. And to be honest, I really like this automation and I think that is going to be a rock solid automation. And it really helps to write the scripts very, very fast. So now let's go with the next automation and let's see what we have here. So this automation, what it's going to do is to create proposals automatically. And this automation is actually one of my favorites because with two very simple automations actually help us to solve one of the most painful things that we have in our agency. And I'm going to explain how it works. So basically, we have two automations over here. We have the upper automation that we see here that is going to basically write the text of all the proposals. And then we have the bottom automation. And then it's going to write back the text of the proposal in Airtable. And then once all the text of the proposal are ready, we're going to be using this other make.com scenario, where basically we're going to trigger this scenario via webhooks. We're going to recover all the information of that specific record, and we're going to create the proposal from a template. Then we're going to include that information of the proposal back in Airtable with this update a record module that we have here. And to be honest, this is one of my favorite automations, and I know that it doesn't solve a very, very big problem because indeed you can use regular ChatGPT and you can fill the text of the proposal. But for me, this proposal was a game changer because before this, it was really, really painful to write proposals. But as I believe that it can be used with ChatGPT and it may be a bit over-engineered for where it actually is, I'm going to put it in the good tier of automations. So now let's go with the next one and let's see what we have there. And this automation that we have here is the SEO writer, and it looks huge, but actually it solves a very, very big problem as well. Because what we're going to do here with this make scenario is to basically write SEO articles with just inputting one target keyword in our Airtable database. So what is going to happen is that we're going to trigger the scenario via webhooks, and then we're going to be creating all the different sections. From the introduction, the headers, the body part 1, the body part 2, the FAQ, the conclusion, and even the meta title and the meta description. So for any type of company that wants to do SEO, this scenario is going to solve a huge problem, because also it's going to include relevant images that are going to be taken from Unsplash API. And in comparison to other softwares like Byword or maybe Jasper AI, the output is very, very similar, and we're going to be saving 90% of the cost. So for me, this is going to be a rock solid automation, because it's true that it's solving a problem. It's true that it's saving a lot of money, but at the same time, there are other alternatives in the market. So it needs to be a rock solid automation. And this automation that we have here generates content and uploads it automatically to Pinterest, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and basically all the social media channels. And actually, this is one of the first automations that I built. And I'm going to explain how it works. So as you can see here, we start the automation by receiving a webhook. And then, depending on the status that we actually find in Airtable, we're going to generate the text, or we're going to post all the different channels. And as you can see, for example, in this route that we have over here, first we're going to post to Instagram, then we're going to post to LinkedIn, then we're going to post in Twitter, and then we're going to post in Pinterest, okay? And this automation is actually super useful, but I actually think that it became a bit obsolete because the Pinterest API wasn't working all the time. And I really like this automation, even though it gave some problems with the Pinterest API and also with the Twitter API. And for that, and because it was one of the first automations that I actually built, I'm going to give it a solid, because it actually solves a problem and it actually helps to post multiple content in different social media platforms. So in this automation that we have here, we're going to summarize all the content of a specific website. And we're going to do it in the following way. First, we're going to receive the information from the custom webhook, and then we're going to retrieve the URL of the website with this Airtable Get a Record module. Then with this Scrape Ninja script module, we're going to scrape that website, and then we're going to parse the HTML to text. And then we're going to update the record with the summarized information in Airtable. And this automation is kind of useful, but at the same time, it's not very unique. And indeed, there is a lot of APIs, and I guess that there is even services that already do this service. So for this is going to be a fair automation. So now let's go with the next automation and let's see what we have here. Okay, so theoretically, with this automation, we're going to be able to create newsletters automatically. So basically, we're going to trigger this scenario once a week. And what we're going to do is to retrieve all those records that we want to include in the newsletter. And basically, they have a checkbox over there. Then we're going to summarize all that information, and then we're going to aggregate all that information into different texts, okay? So we're going to have section 1, section 2, section 3, section 4, image 1, image 3. We're going to have different things that are stored already in our database. But the problem here is that after obtaining all the text and after obtaining all the information, we're going to obtain an HTML that is going to store in a Google Docs. And the reality is that, yeah, we can create the campaign with MailChimp. And the problem with this automation is that usually the newsletters that actually work very, very good are top tier quality. And if we only use AI to create a campaign and then to send the campaign and we don't review it and and then we don't invest more time in order to fix all the details, the campaign is not going to be usable at all, and then we are not going to be providing real value, and consequently the newsletter is not going to be successful. And because of all of this, I have to say that this automation is not usable at all. And to be honest, when I realized that this automation wasn't useful at all, it was kind of painful because I invested a lot of time in building this automation because it also was one of my first automations. And at this point, I didn't know how to use the aggregators, iterators, etc. So I invested a lot of time in creating this automation, and at the end, it wasn't useful at all. But anyway, let's go with the next automation and let's stop talking about the failures. And what this automation is going to do is to obtain the transcription and summarize TikTok videos. So the automation is going to be triggered via a webhook that we're going to receive from Airtable. This webhook is going to contain the record ID from a record that we have on Airtable. Then we're going to use that record ID to get all the information, and then we're going to set different variables. Then here, we're going to obtain the video URL, and then here with this HTTP get a file, we're going to download the video. And then with this Whisper module, we're going to obtain the transcription that then we're going to upload back to Airtable. And once it is in Airtable, we're also going to have some other relevant information like the likes, the shares, the views, and basically some useful metrics. And this automation is useful and it actually works, but the reality is that it's a fair automation because it doesn't solve a very, very specific problem. So indeed, it doesn't provide a lot of value, even though it's a fair automation. But anyway, let's go with the next automation and let's see what we have there. Okay, so this automation is actually super similar to the previous one. But this automation is actually going to be way better because what this automation is going to do is to take the content of any social media platform and it's going to summarize them, write a title for the content, and then include it back into Airtable. And I'm going to explain how it works. So first of all, we're going to be sending all the content that we want to include in our database to a Telegram bot, okay? And then once we receive that information in the Telegram bot, we're going to create a record in Airtable. And when we create a new record in Airtable, it's going to trigger another make scenario that is going to be the one that we have over here. So this scenario that we have here basically is going to be when the previous scenario finishes. And what we're going to do is to first retrieve all the information from that record that we guys have created. And then depending if it is Twitter, Threads, LinkedIn, TikTok, or Instagram, and we're going to use all these different HTTP requests in order to obtain the original content. And once we obtain the original content, what we're going to do is to summarize it, and then we're going to include it back into the database. So then we're going to be able to keep organized all the different content. Doesn't matter if it is Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, or whatever it is. And then what I really like about this software is that as I'm scrolling on TikTok, on LinkedIn, or wherever it is, I'm going to be able to send the content to a Telegram bot. And from that Telegram bot, then I'm going to be able to store it back into Airtable where I'm going to keep the idea so then I can recreate the content or adapt it to my needs. And because of that, I think that this automation needs to be rock solid because it actually helps me in the content production. And I think that is going to be super useful because it's also going to make relevant the time that you're going to be scrolling on LinkedIn, TikTok, Instagram, or wherever. So in the meantime that we're scrolling and literally wasting our time in 90% of the occasions, we're also going to be able to grab ideas that then we're going to be able to recreate, but including them in our Airtable database. So let's go now to the next automation and let's see what we have here. And this automation is actually crazy because with this upper part that we have here, we're going to write all the SEO text of a certain Shopify product. But then what actually makes it even crazier is that once we update in Airtable all the information with the SEO text, we're going to trigger this webhook. And what this scenario that we have here is going to do is to basically re-evaluate if the texts are good or not. And if the texts are not good, then we're going to rewrite them. So as you can imagine, the combination of these two scenarios is super powerful because it's not only going to help us to write all the SEO text super fast, but then it's going to review all those texts automatically. And if the texts are not good, we're going to go through this route and basically we're going to rewrite them and then we're going to update the record back in Airtable. And because of this automation basically auto-regulates itself, I think that this is a top tier automation when we are rewriting the text with this boron scenario that we have over here. So because of that, I think that this automation needs to be a top tier automation. And now let's go with the next automation and see what we have here. This automation is actually for the no-code marketplace that I mentioned before. And one of the problems that we had there is that when the developer was creating a new product, it was very painful to create all the thumbnails, to create all the text, and to create basically all the information that we need in order to create a listing. So what we did is to simplify to the maximum the process. And what is going to happen is that when they submit a form in our website, basically we're going to trigger this webhook. And this webhook is going to retrieve all the information of the freshly created template. And with that information of the freshly created template, then we're going to create a new thumbnail for that template. And then we're going to create a description of that template. So basically, the developers that want to upload a new template to the marketplace just need to write a few words, and then we're going to obtain back the full description of the product. Then once we obtain back the full description of the product, we're going to update the record in Airtable, and the thumbnail and description is going to be ready to go, so the developers don't need to do it at all. And as I mentioned, this automation was super useful to us because at the beginning, for the developers, it was really painful to create a new listing. By simplifying that process, we actually managed to increase the listings of the marketplace. And because of this is going to be a rock solid automation because it can improve the user experience of the developers in no-code click. And obviously, if they upload more templates, we're going to make more sales, and at the end of the day, the marketplace is going to grow. So with that said, let's go to the next automation. And this automation is actually one automation that we use in the agency and that we have integrated with our Airtable CRM. So what is going to happen here is that basically is triggered when we win a new project. We're going to create the docs, the invoices, and then we're going to send an email to the customer. And depending on the status of the project, we're also going to send the invites to our Discord channel. And as you can see, there is different routes that we're going to go through depending on the stage of the process. So for example, if it is a new project, first we're going to draft the contract, then we're going to download the document, then we're going to create the invoice and we're going to send it to the customer with these Stripe modules. And then we're going to create an invitation to the Discord channel and we're going to send the invitation through email. And I would say that this automation is a solid automation because onboarding new clients and making the experience as seamless as possible is always a good thing to do because it puts less friction on the clients, and obviously we're going to close more projects this way. And let's continue with the next automation, and actually we are in the last 3 automations. And in this automation that we have here, basically from an Airtable database, we are going to add a YouTube video and we're going to convert it into a LinkedIn post. And how it works is the following. Whenever we add a new record in this Airtable database, basically we're going to trigger this scenario. And if the texts are not ready, first we're going to create the text with this route that we have over here, where basically we're going to retrieve all the information, then we're going to write all the text, and then we're going to update the Airtable module over here. And then once everything is ready, we're going to change the status here and we're going to say post, and then the post is going to be automatically uploaded to LinkedIn. And to be honest, I think that this is a good automation because converting a YouTube video into a LinkedIn post is something that it may be very useful. But at the same time, if we are not using an assistant or if we are not using a custom trained model, we're going to need to review the output that comes from OpenAI because that content is going to sound so much like AI. But anyway, I think it's a good automation, and if we make some improvements like creating an assistant or even training a custom model, I think that this can be a rock solid automation or even top tier. So now let's go with the next automation, and this automation is going to do all the research of the new leads that we have on our pipeline. And this is going to happen the following way. So basically, we're going to trigger this custom webhook. Then we're going to receive all the information from that lead, like website, full name, etc. Then with this Scrape Ninja module, we're going to scrape the website and we're going to see what do they do. Then with this text parser, we're going to convert into text the HTML. And then with these 2 modules, first we're going to search the LinkedIn profile, and then we're going to scrape that LinkedIn profile. So then we're going to convert everything into text, and we're going to create a document with all the information that we have received from the website and also from the LinkedIn scraping. We're going to create this document with this Google Docs module, and then we're going to update that record of that prospect in Airtable. And as this automation is going to help us to discover more to our potential customers, I think it's going to be a solid automation because it actually solves a problem, and I think that this is going to help us to close more leads and potentially increase our revenue. And now, finally, let's go with the last automation and let's see what we have here. So this is a chatbot, and what this chatbot does is to basically manage completely any real estate property. And how is this VoiceFlow chatbot going to do it? So as you can see here, we have the VoiceFlow designer, and this chatbot is going to be relevant, for example, when there is an issue in certain property. So basically, the tenants are going to have access to this chatbot. And what is going to do this chatbot is to gather all the information about the issue, to gather attachments, to gather availability. And then once we gather all the information that we need from the tenants, we're going to trigger this make.com automation. And as you can see, there is different send and email Gmail modules. And each one of these emails is going to be sent to a different person. So for example, if there is a problem with the electricity, we're going to be sending an email to the electrician. But if there is a problem with the fiber, we're going to be sending an email to the person that is in charge of the fiber. And if there is any other type of problem, we're going to be sending to the relevant person. And I think that this chatbot is super useful because it really solves a problem that is the communication of tenants with landlords where there is any issue at the property. And automatically, we're going to be sending that issue to the relevant person, including the availability, address, phone number, and basically all the information that the relevant person is going to need. And because of that, I think that this automation is going to be a rock solid automation. And once the chatbot has gathered all the information, then we're going to be sending an email to the relevant person. And now we finish with the tier list. So if you like the video, remember to follow and see you in the next one.